people in the 1950s, they got education, they got money, they got houses, they got cars. And so the average worker in the 1950s, as they became middle class, they didn't necessarily have to or want to listen to anybody about stuff. As a group, they had political power in their ability to vote and spend their dollars. And so that made leadership much more difficult because we didn't just listen to people because they were the boss. I think the previous generation, they listened to authority. You're a policeman, I'm going to listen to you. I'm not going to question whether you are right or wrong, whether I want to do that or not. You're a policeman. You're a fireman. You're a priest. You're a teacher. You're my dad. You're my uncle. You're my sergeant, okay? And so a lot of people in the 1950s said, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to do what the heck I want to do. I got the money. I got the house. I got the car. I'm going to do what I want. And so with this burgeoning middle class, right, people who were more educated and more financially secure, they didn't necessarily have to listen or want to listen to people. And they also didn't need the job. You know, prior to World War II, you know, people were happy to have a job. There were things like the Great Depression, so they were just happy to have a job, any job, just to put food on the table. And one job was pretty much the same as the next. You know, after World War II, there were choices. You can work in different industries, different fields. And for the first time, you had a lot of people doing white-collar work. So if you went to college on the GI Bill and you had a desk job, that was much more respected than a factory worker. And so you felt like you could pretty much be your own person, okay? So leadership became more challenged in the 1950s, okay? How are we going to get people to follow directions or follow the objectives or follow the strategies? That became more difficult. So there were fewer people who could influence and inspire. A lot of it had to do with a person's own self-awareness. If a leader was confident, if they were somewhat sensitive, if they were somewhat self-aware, then they could provide more leadership. You know, you get more flies with honey than with vinegar approach, right? Prior to World War II, the bosses were all vinegar. And then some of the smart leaders after World War II said, hey, I'm going to sweeten things up to get things that I want, okay? So the self-awareness was very important. And one of the things that came out of the 1950s and 60s was the continued development of psychology, something called the Big Five personality traits. This is where we started looking at people as more than just warm bodies, right? Hey, I got a factory job. I'm putting axles on a Ford Model T assembly line. I just need a guy with muscles. Now all of a sudden was, you know, hey, I need some guy who's good with math, or I need some guy who's good writing, or I need some guy who's good with analysis. So the psychologists developed the Big Five personality traits, and that basically enabled leaders to treat people as differently as more individuals. So there were things like, is this person an introvert or an extrovert? Is this person open or closed? Is this person agreeable or non-agreeable? Is this person emotionally stable or not? Is this person conscientious? And see, why that mattered is because if you were a leader and you can tell that one of your workers was conscientious, you didn't have to hover over that person. You could say, hey, Jim, I need you to do this, and a conscientious person would do it. And that saved a lot of time and got much better performance. If a person was an introvert, if a person was shy, you wouldn't waste your time trying to make that person a salesperson, because introverts traditionally are not the best salespeople. Extroverts are. But that knowledge helped the leadership and the followership work better. Same thing for openness. If you had a job that required creativity, that required new product innovation, then then maybe even product invention, well then you would want a very open person who would look at the world not in terms of what is as what could be, and so this psychological awareness enabled leaders to have a much better handle on how to treat people individually. Of course, out of this, now that people were more independent, what are the leaders doing? Well, the leaders, now that they don't have to hover and watch, they are spending more time focusing on having a vision for making things better. They are focusing more on their emotional intelligence. I've got to be better with people in order to be a good leader. And so a lot of leaders started focusing on things like morality, ethics, courage, trust, those kind of squishy things, those kind of things we call soft skills. To be perfectly honest with you, the things that had been previously attributed to femininity, okay? The thing that I know really bothers some people is that management is more of a masculine endeavor. Hit my deadline, meet my bottom line, get things done. Men are more kind of focused on that tangible kind of precision. Women are more geared toward sensitivity, tolerance, patience, acceptance. Oh, you bruised your knees, Johnny, here, let mommy kiss it and make it better. That's what mothers are used to doing with children. Well, that was kind of what you found to be needed among your subordinates. This person is frustrated because they can't solve this problem. You didn't really solve it by saying, grow up, stop being a baby, get your job done. That was a militaristic model that used to work but didn't anymore. It was kind of like, hey Jimmy, how can I help you with that problem? Let's brainstorm it. Let's work it together. Let me get you a new magazine subscription that deals with those problems. And so the feminine attributes of nurturing and supporting and encouraging and empathy, that became more prevalent after World War II in terms of leadership qualities. And again, I know as a guy it's not cool to say that the better jobs require us to get in touch with our feminine self, but that seems to be the truth. So, well, thanks very much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what you heard, please give us a like. If you'd like to see more of these sessions, please subscribe. And if you would like to see the full video, just click on this link right here.